Hello, and thank you for tuning in. I'm James Cleveland. Tonight we have a special roundtable event with two guests, Derrick J. Freeman and Kelly Voluntarius.
And I'm Allie Havens. Welcome, Derrick and Kelly. In local news tonight, the recently completed North Bridge in Keene was supposed to have a dedication ceremony this past Saturday. However, the ceremony was postponed due to faulty weld bolts.
The dedication will be postponed since the City of Keene conducted a random sampling of 300 of the 3,000 weld bolts and found 30 to be faulty. Keene Mayor Kendall Lane stated some of the welds came up irregular. The bolts that hold the bridge together are supposed to be a particular length, and some are a quarter of an inch short of what they're supposed to be.
Kurt D. Blomquist, Keene's Director of Public Works, stated, according to state regulations, because 10% or more of the weld bolts were deemed deficient, a contractor that wasn't involved with the construction must now perform an inspection of all 3,000 weld bolts on the bridge.
Neither Mayor Lane nor Blomquist told who would be paying for the repair and replacement of the faulty weld bolts, especially since the bridge has already cost the taxpayers a cool $2.3 million. City officials wanted the bridge for pedestrians and bike riders so they wouldn't have to brave the heavy traffic at routes 9, 10, and 12 intersection.
Now, this bridge has been controversial ever since it was brought up as an idea. I mean, a lot of people said that residents in Keene said it wasn't even necessary in the first place because there are already places for pedestrians and bike riders to get through. And I think it's a good example of misallocation of resources on the government's part. What do you guys think?
Absolutely. I mean, $2.3 million to spend on a bridge is quite a lot of money, and now apparently they're just going to be investing even more money into it because they didn't do it right in the first place. So.
There's no need for the government to be involved in projects like these. It's the case in Keene already that a local business was the one who built the bridge in Ashwellock Park. So there's already an example of bridges being built in Keene by private industry without the help of the public sector, which is often so ineffective in their cost allocation.
Right, and I could just see where they're building this bridge and they don't have the right size of bolts, and as far as the people contracted to build the bridge, as far as they cared, they just have to build the bridge. That's what they were paid to do, and they're not responsible for any injuries if the bridge were to fail. But of course, the city would not want that, so I'm not sure how they realized that there were faulty bolts, but it is unfortunate that the taxpayers are responsible for their mess up.
Right, and it does sound nice that the city of Keene would build a bridge. Who doesn't like a fun building project like a bridge? But it's just unfortunate that people do respond to incentives, and when endless dollars can be thrown at a project, endless dollars will be thrown at a project. And so we see that private industry is the better of the two to handle this particular project, in my opinion.
Yeah, infrastructure is one of those things that people really think government should be involved in because they think it creates jobs and they like to see, you know, tools in men's hands, and they see that as wealth creation. But as we can tell from the story, a lot of times it's just not the case when the state's involved.
Yeah, it's not needed either. I've actually personally biked on that trail, and if you go down maybe a quarter mile, there's an underpass where you can bypass the traffic anyway. So it was completely pointless to actually have that bridge. And it's funny too, I've seen people using it even though it's not actually safe per se.
Right. And a bridge, well, like you said, Derrick, a bridge is a really nice thing to have. It's pretty, it's great, but people should have the choice of whether they want to pay for it or not. And when it's done through the public sector, through the government, through the taxpayers, there's no choice in the matter.
That's exactly right, Kelly. In state news tonight, a Belknap County jury utilized jury nullification to unanimously acquit a local Rastafarian, Doug Darrell, who was charged with marijuana cultivation. Mark Sisti, Darrell's lawyer, successfully argued the conviction would be unjust in light of the fact that Darrell was growing cannabis for his own religious and medicinal use.
More importantly, the judge instructed the jury that even if you find the state has proven each and every element of the offense charged beyond a reasonable doubt, you may still find the defendant not guilty if you have a conscientious feeling that a guilty verdict would not be a fair result in this case. This is the first time Sisti has persuaded a judge to tell juries that they have the power to vote their consciousness. Sisti hopes that the new law will make instructions more common, if not standard.
Governor John Lentz signed the jury nullification law this past June. The law doesn't go into effect until January 2013, which makes this case extraordinary. Darrell was arrested in 2009 after members of a marijuana eradication task force spotted his plants from a National Guard helicopter flying over his home in Barnstead. The state offered Darrell several plea deals. However, Darrell refused all plea deals and was successfully acquitted. And I like this case because not only is it does it mean hopefully more freedom for cannabis users and growers, but more respect for people's religious beliefs, because as far as I understand, Rastafarians, the consumption of cannabis is, or respect for it, is part of their religious belief.
It's a huge story in my opinion, Allie, and not just because of the religious aspect and the appreciation of human rights, but also because it's a cultivation of marijuana case. I've seen countless individuals, having spent time in the Cheshire County House of Corrections, who are away for years just for possession of a simple plant. And this man was cultivating the plant, and yet his neighbors said he deserves to be free. That's a big deal in a state where marijuana is still illegal.
Certainly.
That's definitely a real big deal, and really, to me, what the most important part of this is really the implication that through jury nullification, laws that normal people don't think are right will eventually, theoretically, be nullified out of existence.
Right. That's jury nullification is what was the tool used to end alcohol prohibition, and so hopefully maybe we're seeing it being used to end drug prohibition, other drugs being prohibited. So I see it as a very good thing. I was starting to lose a little hope on jury nullification because I'd seen it, other activists try to use it, and I wasn't sure if the jurors would feel comfortable doing something like that, going with their conscience when a judge told them that they should just go by what the laws say. However, what was special about this case is that Sisti actually got the judge to say out loud that you're allowed to use your conscience when making your decision. So I think that that's really important. Hopefully we'll see more judges doing that, and it could be protocol maybe.
Absolutely.
I think that would change things.
I certainly agree, and it's a big deal that this case even made it to trial, given that the man in question, Mr. Darrell, was offered several plea deals up until the point of trial, including no jail time and no fine. He had no risk on the line, and yet he decided to put himself into the lion's den to bring this issue in front of the people and be judged by his neighbors. He was vindicated, and I thank him for his courage.
Yeah, that comes from truly believing that you did nothing wrong. I think a lot of people, when they get caught breaking laws, the law is so entwined in what we consider to be morality that people lose sight of, well, I wasn't hurting anyone and I didn't defraud anybody, so why am I being brought up on charges? And, if people start thinking more in that light, then it'll be easier for people to refuse plea deals or to feel guilty about what they've done. I don't even like it when people consider themselves guilty or they're charged with, guilty verdict, because guilt is an emotion that one should only feel if they have harmed somebody else.
Right, and it's an important issue, especially given that we're living in a place where we have only 5% of the world's population, yet 25% of the world's prison population. It's a big deal that we are able to keep each other out of jail by serving on juries and making sure that people who are guilty of victimless crimes involving no victim, are set free. As an example, I pled guilty to possession of 0.11 gram of marijuana and was sentenced to 1 year in jail, all but 90 days suspended. This man cultivated 15 plants and was set free. So,
yeah, going back to the jail point, I think I've read there's 2.6 million people in prison in America, and 1.3 million, half are in for marijuana.
Wow.
So it's just incredible.
Right. If the law really is, a point in which to base your morality, then that implies that some of the least moral people are in the United States. They have the largest number of, just heretics, I guess, because look at how many people we imprison. And so you have to sort of look at the numbers and think, are all these people bad people? And it can't be so. Something's wrong with the system if that's what's happening.
Right, and if they're not all bad people, then what a waste of resources. What a waste of resources putting these people in jail.
Hear, hear.
Yeah.
Definitely. In national news tonight, on September 13th, the Federal Reserve announced another round of quantitative easing, number 3, or QE3, in an effort to stimulate the economy. What is quantitative easing? Since the Federal Reserve can just create dollars out of thin air, it can buy up assets like long-term treasuries or mortgage-backed securities from commercial banks and other institutions. This pumps money into the U.S. economy and reduces long-term interest rates further. When long-term interest rates go down, investors have more incentive to spend their money now, in theory.
Here is what QE3 is. First, the Fed will keep short-term interest rates low until mid-2015. Second, the central bank will buy up $85 billion worth of assets each month between now and the end of the year. But unlike QE1 or QE2, this round of purchases will be more open-ended. That's an important change. Here's the key bit from the Fed statement. If the outlook for the labor market does not improve substantially, the committee will continue to purchase its agency-backed securities, undertake additional asset purchases, and employ its other policy tools as appropriate until such improvement is achieved. The purchases will continue until morale improves. What's more, the Fed noted it will continue its policy of easy money for considerable time after the economic recovery strengthens.
So something I thought, they're going to continue this inflation of the currency until morale improves. And this just they're kind of showing their economic theory, which is sort of based on this idea that what makes an economy healthy is the perception of a healthy economy. So the idea is that if people think that the money's going to be coming in long term, that they'll spend it now and invest in more projects. But as we saw with the housing bubble and the dot-com bubble, it doesn't. A lot of people end up investing in these projects. They think they're going to go all the way in, and then they become malinvestments because the money dries up and they can't continue and finish out their projects.
Absolutely.
My real concern is that when any agency is in the business of money creation, that those who are storing their value in said currency are having their value robbed from them without ever participating in.
Right, terrible for savers.
True value can't be just pulled out of thin air.
It's true, yeah. The Federal Reserve is not in charge of figuring out how much value there is in society and making sure their notes are, according or lining up accordingly. They're just in charge of deciding, how many little pieces of paper are out there, or not usually actual paper, but how many ones and zeros there are in systems, which basically represent how, their debt notes, essentially.
If QE3 concerns anyone today, they may be interested to look back at 2006 when the Fed stopped reporting on what is called M3, or the number of dollars in circulation.
Interesting, yeah. Yeah, do we even know how many? I mean, maybe us four don't, but I'm not even sure how many US dollars there are out there in the world.
I don't know either. It certainly seems like it's falsely propping up the economy, or an attempt to falsely prop up the economy, which is obviously very dangerous for investors.
Well, at the point where those in charge of the money supply, the Fed, are no longer reporting on how many dollars are in circulation, there's no one who could possibly know.
That's a good point.
Yeah, the whole system they use is based on what they call aggregate demand. It's a Keynesian idea that the economy will improve if it's a formula. Y equals C, consumption, plus business investment, I, plus government spending. So if consumer spending is down or business investment is down, they think you should pump it up with
Government spending.
government spending. And that's basically what all the quantitative easings have been.
Where does government spending come from, James?
Well, eventually it comes from the taxpayers, either through taxes or inflation.
Okay.
So
Right.
you're gonna have to pay the bill. There's no such thing as free money.
So we are all paying for this.
And that's interesting because some people have hypothesized that maybe some of these stories coming out about what's happening, in the Middle East with the revolts and everything, that is happening, but that is getting so much more coverage than QE3 that it's sort of seeming like a distraction to keep people from looking at what the Federal Reserve is doing, because with their new policy about just continuing this for until morale improves and even longer after that, just for good measure, it's becoming really frightening for people, because what happens if morale doesn't improve?
Right.
They're just going to continue, and this is what's ruining the economy in the first place.
Right.
So it sort of seems like the people who are making money off the Federal Reserve System are trying to cash in as much as they can before the economy completely tanks. So it is a little frightening, and it seems pretty transparent, but if people are paying attention to other things, then it'll go unnoticed.
Hyperinflation does have its own strategy, and those who participate in hyperinflation can't be exempt from the consequences. It's the same story as what happened in Argentina, Zimbabwe, and the Third Reich.
Another reason to invest in precious metals, if you ask me.
Now Derrick J. is going to talk about his victimless crime spree and exile tour.
That's right. You had your Victimless Crime Spree movie, and that was amazing. It played at Keene Cinemas. How was that? What was it like to see a documentary about you on the big screen?
Well, it was great, Allie and James. Thanks so much for asking. Yes, on the 15th of September, this Saturday, Keene Cinemas had a premiere of my film, Derrick J's Victimless Crime Spree. And for those of you who missed it, we missed you, but you can check it out at victimlesscrimespree.com. There was also a poster giveaway and an announcement that DVDs will be in the works for those who are not able to check out a film online. And it was incredible seeing the bureaucrats busy at work keeping peaceful people from holding them accountable on the big screen is larger than life. And my whole goal with the project was simply to document my experiences here in Keene. I never set out to get arrested. There was perhaps one planned act of civil disobedience, which was the Give Peace a Chance event, where I openly smoked cannabis in Keene's Central Square. But other than that event, I never intended to be arrested. It happened to be that I was aggressed upon by agents of the state, and thank goodness I was holding a video camera every time that happened, because there's something different that happens when people don't have a camera. The cops are the ones who get to frame the story, and when you do have a camera, there's an objective record of what actually happened, and it doesn't have to be my word against a police officer's. People who are sitting at home can watch for themselves and see if I was really in the wrong. In the end, I was sentenced to 540 days in the Cheshire County House of Corrections, all but 90 days and a $1,240 fine suspended. And I served 60 days in jail for my victimless crime spree. Of course, none of my crimes involved any victims. And after that, I served 124 hours at the community kitchen here in Keene, which I just finished this Friday. So it's been thrilling all along the way. I've had lots of support, both from activists here in Keene and worldwide, folks who reach out online to support me. And I'm happy to say that I had the company of all of you and at the premiere, and also you all appeared in the film. So if you're a fan of this show,
we're famous.
Check out victimlesscrimespree.com.
Yeah, and something that was also wonderful about the film was that a lot of it was records from or film from other people's cameras. It's not Bo Davis put it all together, and it's not as if he had to take everything with his camera. He used clips from online, from a whole host of activists' records, and it was great just to to see that, how it all came together, and just you being the story so many times made for a really interesting little film that you could put all together. And I think a lot of people were really inspired by it.
Well, thanks, Allie. That's a great point. Bo Davis, the editor, deserves a huge credit for making this work possible. Also, Ian Freeman was the producer and set up the premiere as well as the DVD and posters, and really got Bo involved with this project and really tied it all together, made it happen. And so I'm so honored to have worked with Bo and with Ian on this project, and I'm happy to say that it's really one of a kind. It's the first of its kind in that, just as you mentioned, resources were pulled from all of the internet, all decentralized locations where individuals had taken video footage on their own, and then we came together as a group to compile all of that footage from the internet and put it all together in one piece that's digestible. A lot of times people will see a free Keene video and they'll say, those crazy people out there getting arrested over nothing, but they don't know the whole context. And so if you watch this video, a lot of people who were critical of my independent videos, those which displayed independently, were actually supportive of the entire film once they saw it all put together in context.
Yeah,
so that was delightful to see.
Gives you perspective. What do you want to tell our viewers about future projects, stuff you're doing after this taping?
Well, I leave from Keene tomorrow. Having finished my community service, I'm able to commit with Adam Kokesh of Adam vs. the Man fame, working together collaboratively on a 20-minute, 5-day-a-week comedy newscast. It's going to be a real joy putting together a comedy show that frames the news from a libertarian perspective. I think a lot of people today get their news from comedy shows, and so I'm happy to participate in this event. We're going to be collaborating with writers from all over the country, and it's a really great project for folks to get involved with, and we're just hitting the ground floor of this. So if you're watching this in September or October of 2012, send me an email at derrick@adamversustheman.com to get involved.
Is that Adam VS the Man, or you spell out versus?
It's VS.
Okay, just checking. So that's great, because I know that as far as satirical news shows go, a lot of them are very left-leaning in their bias, and that's always frustrating as a liberty-minded person because they're halfway there. So it'll be great to get that full-on, libertarian, principled viewpoint out of the news in a lighthearted way.
Comedy is a great way to communicate, and you're right, Hollywood does have a liberal bias. In fact, during The Daily Show, it was revealed that the staff makes a point not to host any conservative guests, and so they're quite open about their liberal bias.
Interesting. Well, Kelly, you were in court this morning with
Yes.
Ian Freeman. Tell us what that was about.
Yes, today was mine and Ian's. Well, it was really our first trial date for our trespassing case that came about earlier this year. Last December 30th, we were issued no trespass orders along with Derrick here and several other activists. We were issued no trespass orders for the Cheshire County Superior Court by the sheriff, Dick Foote. And at the end of February, Ian and I
hate to interrupt you, but what was the reasoning behind giving you no trespassing order? Because to forbid people from going to court, that's quite a thing to do, when court is something that people have to show up to pretty regularly, and it's supposed to be a public space.
Yes, we do. There's a constitutional law backing up the fact that we do have a presumed right of access to the court. However, the sheriff claimed that we were persistently harassing court personnel. However, he didn't really present any evidence that we were harassing anyone.
What were you doing there that day?
We were interviewing court employees about some things that have been going on inside the courthouse, and we were singing some songs.
Okay.
So
how did the trial go?
the trial, it ended up being more of a basic hearing than the actual, the actual trial. We didn't question any witnesses. We simply established the basic facts of the case, and we're returning on November 14th to discuss what the real issue of the case is, which is the validity of the no trespass orders.
So they're stalling until then?
They're not really stalling. They wanted to go over the motion that Attorney John Meyer filed. The motion to have the no trespass orders overturned. So if the no trespass orders are found to be unconstitutional, obviously the cases against Ian and I will be dismissed.
I see.
It occurs to me that the date that was set today for the postponement is after the election. Do you think that Sheriff Foote had any part in choosing the date, and do you think he was concerned that his involvement in this alleged crime may hurt his chances of being elected to Congress?
I really don't know what Sheriff Foote has on his mind, that's for sure. However, I think that the lengthy postponement for the hearing had more to do with the prosecutors. He had some personal issues going on out of state, so.
Now, if the case is dismissed, will that actually set a precedent? Like, maybe in the future, if I do something at the courthouse, maybe I will not get a no trespass order?
If the no trespass orders are overturned, everyone who received one, they will be allowed to go back to the Cheshire County Superior Court, and I would believe that it would absolutely set a precedent that these no trespass orders are illegal, invalid, and that this sort of behavior on the part of the Sheriff's Department, on the part of these government officials, is absolutely unconstitutional and unacceptable.
Well, it's interesting because I just happened to be looking at the United States Constitution today, and the First Amendment says that we're supposed to have the right to petition government for redress of grievances.
Absolutely.
And that seems exactly like what you guys were doing that day in court, that you were there to, ask them how they felt about this grievance of yours, and
The right to assemble as well.
right, and the whole idea that they could ban people who are doing that obviously is a violation of your constitutional and natural rights.
I believe that these no trespass orders are a blatant violation of my constitutional rights. There's no excuse for such behavior on the part of these officials.
So what do you plan to do with this? You're coming back, and
I will be back on the 14th for the next hearing, and we intend to take this as far as it'll go.
sounds
So,
good. Hold them accountable.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Join us again next week for another installment of ShireTV for more news and analysis. I'm James Cleveland.
And I'm Allie Havens. May you each find happiness, peace, and prosperity.